Review. It is January 11th, and I'm sitting here with my buddy Michael. Today, we're going to talk about file sharing in all sorts of different ways. How's it going today, Michael?
Doing good. We are in a nice warm weather, just traveled back from some colder weather. So Arizona is lawfully warm. We are here today to talk about studio projects, and we are going to bring up Prime as well. So sharing links, the capabilities of what projects offers. Maybe we'll dip our toes in a little bit on some settings that we can set up for projects when we invite attendees to it. And then also tie in some Prime capabilities on what we can gain insights from Studio Prime with. As always, this is about you, the community, so feel free to ask any questions. We will go off tangent prior to doing our topic because it is a loose topic. So Jason, what else?
So all this is coming from previous conversations, right? So last Tuesday, we were talking about, whatever we were talking about, and file sharing came up. And we didn't really dive into it, but we figured this would be a good time to revisit it. And it becomes more and more prevalent these days, right? Because I'm getting really annoyed with Dropbox. I'm getting really annoyed with like digging through the 8,000 plus emails that I have shamed in my inbox, looking for an attachment somewhere when there's a better way to share files. And I know that, we've been trying to share more files with our buddy Matt Lynn. So he's up to speed on all this Bluebeam stuff as well. And we're looking for that central repository. And that's where Studio comes in. So we're going to base today on how we're going to share things back and forth. And there's a few ways that we can do it. And why not do the pros and cons of the Bluebeam way versus Dropbox and Google Drive and all the other ones.
Okay, I'm up for that. The only thing is, we'll start off with paying cost-wise, usually, right? That's usually a big ticker item. Reviews included with any version, studio projects and studio sessions. We covered some sessions the other day. Free with any version of review at no additional cost, regardless if you have active maintenance or not. So it's free, right? Dropbox is a cost. OneDrive, if I'm correct, is a cost, right? What else would be a cost for a repository?
There's the Autodesk Drive, which is, I think you can get a free account, but not commercial. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't used that one in a while.
So we'll skip that one. Google Drive allows you to share stuff as well, but there's a limit cap, right?
Yes.
And then after that limit cap, you have to pay. With projects, it's unlimited file size. So it doesn't matter how many files you have in the project. So that's better. So cost, first one, we'll ticket item cost. Do you want to create a list or you want me to today?
Oh,
pros and cons.
Let's do this. I'll just start sharing my screen here.
Okay, I'll type this out. Pros and cons.
All right. So what we're talking about is Studio. So let's start here. And yes, Ed, Autodesk costs. As an Autodesk Platinum partner here, we're familiar with all those, but they're still better than the competition. Just saying. All right. Let's open up the Studio. So if you haven't seen the Studio before, let's go ahead and sign out of this thing. And we're not going to go in depth on what Studio is. We've done this before, but we will, as we normally do, go down the rabbit hole a little bit.
One question before we start. Is there a way to change your leaders to an arc leader versus the straight leader? From what I've tried, there isn't a current way. Maybe someone out in the community may be able to answer that. Or
you know what,
Jason.
Though? Wait, okay. Oh, Brian, thank you for this. You know how much we love going down rabbit holes and side tangents. All right. So the question, can you do a spline leader? Because spline leaders are the devil. Can we do this? One of the things that I was thinking about that immediately came to mind was the right click menu. And there's nothing here. Because I know we've done this before with the polyline, right? Where you can go in and Whoop. Not using AutoCAD today. I can go in and right click and convert to arc, right? That's the right click context menu that I was after. Here with a leader, that's simply not possible. So,
and even holding control just lets you quickly place another leader,
yeah,
or shift. So
there's not even a
over the node,
another vertex option. Alt, shift. Yeah, there's nothing there. So unfortunately, spline leaders cannot be done. Great question though. What about, and I can't put I can put an end on this. Oh, that's just asking for a nightmare though.
Yeah, because then it's separate text too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can. It's going to be a 2-part.
Well, the bigger issue is that the arrowhead will never fully be aligned. You're going to have to constantly go in and try to do this. Like,
Have fun.
Splines aren't worth it. Good question. All right. So back to Studio here, and I'll leave this up so we have something there. The Studio is one of those things, and this comes up because in addition to Michael and I doing morning coffee review every Tuesday morning, we're always on customer calls with clients and doing demos and trainings and things like that. And people say, I don't go to the Studio. I'm scared of it. I see a sign in, and it's one of those things where at least my brain, when I first saw it, I was like, that's going to cost somebody extra, and that's really not the case here. You don't have to be scared of this. If you go to Bluebeam Studio and you go to sign in, it's going to give you the option to create an account, right? So you can create your own account. Always make sure that your Bluebeam ID is your work email though, because that will make your IT admin your friend, right? And that's what we all strive to maintain a healthy relationship there.
Especially if you do Prime, because you have to link counts into Prime. You don't just automatically link your, what do they call it, that domain into your accounts. So be aware of that. If they don't know your email address, they're not going to be able to help manage projects in Prime.
Oh, this is where I messed up. So, speaking of security and things.
Did you change all your passwords?
I did, but I don't remember what I changed this one to. I don't think it matches.
Oh, no, bummer. I will share.
See, gets me every time. So I just started changing my passwords this morning because we're doing it monthly, and I didn't write them down like I shouldn't do.
So this password never changes. If your company domain password never changes, changes regularly, this still isn't tied to that. This is tied to your Bluebeam ID is what it's called. So don't worry or fret if you're frequently changing your password. It's just your original password that you've always had. So thankfully, I have the same password. Well, I'm not going to say this out loud. Never mind. So now that I've logged in, and if you didn't log in, you can create a new Bluebeam ID again. And then you're going to see Studio. Studio is going to populate. Again, you can have this on a second screen if you'd like, but you have two different icons. You have projects and then you have sessions. So this one looks like a whiteboard, the old one that you can flip, right? That you can wheel around. The other one looks like a piece of paper. Now, these projects are given a name and an ID. Now, most folks can join by an ID if they have been added or there's been a restriction added to it as well. So we'll talk about that in a second. I think I have a morning coffee review one here. So I'm just going to name a new one MCR. These show up in order of creation. Okay. So in order of invite or joined creation. No, not joined, it's creation. So they show up in order of creation down here. You can refresh in anyone or any of them that you've been invited to that you have yet to join. This is a new tab as well. So for those folks in an older version versus a new version, you'll have two different tabs. Now you can filter, say all projects, only my projects that I've created, attended projects, maybe by date, name, or ID. These are the sorted by So if I hit all by default, again, it was by date created down. You do by name, you do by ID. It's up to you. Okay. Now, how do I create one? You have the plus icon with new project or join. Again, you can join by ID. Some folks always ask, well, what about the dashes? You can use dashes or no dashes for the number ID to join. Now, before we hop in and create one, what is Studio Projects? It's a storage, just like a standard FTP site. It's unlimited. There are some caps in sessions, but in projects, unlimited file size, unlimited markup size, unlimited amount of people invited to projects as well. It's pretty much unlimited everything. The only thing that I have ever gotten stopped by adding into there was an executable file. I wasn't able to bring an executable file into a project that I was trying to share. We have some questions here.
Have a question.
Do you want to read that so I don't stop talking and then see, because
we're gonna come back to that one.
Okay. So going through here and creating a studio project, you hit the plus icon. You can say new project, again, or joined. You get not joined when you've been invited to by your email address. So I'm gonna name this MCR. Today's date is 2/2. We'll do 11/01. That's completely backwards. 01/11 is what we want. Good old days of being in the industry, year, month, and then date in terms of changing the time of what it is. Okay. So once I've created a studio project, the project's going to populate almost like a PDF tab in Revu. This is actually the moment where you can leave sessions, studio panel in your access bar. So you can just click it. And then now you're just in the project. Because again, when you're in Revu, you want to maximize your UI on what you're doing. So now I'm here in the tab of the project and nothing's been added so far. So you can see the hierarchy of the tab that you're in from right here. This is really key to paying attention to when you're adding documents into a project. Now, this can just be a repository where you're just throwing things in here. You don't want to structure it. That's completely fine. If you want to add some structure, you can. So usually when I start a project, this is the order I'm going to follow. First, I'm going to add some structure to it. And then when I'm getting ready to invite some people into it, I'm going to add some inviting settings and then start inviting people to it. Inviting people to it is this little human outline, and then you hit the plus and you can invite people. But to add structure, you can go through and add a new folder or just add files to here. So just think in terms of Windows, you have your hierarchy of your folders within subfolders and subfolders. Same thing here. Your starting folder is going to be the MCR tab right here, or the naming of it. And then you can add a new folder from here or up here as well. Now, if you already have an existing structure from Windows, which I love to use as my outline, so what I can do is go through and decide to add from Windows here an entire folder structure. So I think I have one here. Yep. So in here, if I wanted to quickly add a folder structure, I could just drag and drop this studio project folder structure directly into here, and it's going to automatically create my folder structure for me. So this already had subfolders within folders that I created directly from my Windows, but there's nothing in them. It just gives me the structure that I needed, right? So you can automatically have this. If you don't want to, again, we're going to create a new subfolder. So the hierarchy being the MCR. Now, if I look here, Studio Project folders, just like I had from here, Studio Project folders, they're subfolders, right? So I have a flyout here that I can click down subfolders. Now, if I wanted to create a new hierarchy of a new folder for my example here, we'll just name this airport. Then in this one, I can create subfolders because again, these are folders that live separate from each other. They're not sub like these ones. I can go into here and add a new subfolder and do images, right? And then from here, I have the subfolder. So those are your options here to create subfolders within other folders. Yes, you can create a new subfolder underneath images, but you got to make sure your structure, when you're clicking them, you're not in the airport because that's going to make a subfolder outside of images. You need to be inside images, as you can tell here, and then do a subfolder here. I click OK.
Trick.
Yep.
So your drag and drop.
Sorry?
Your drag and drop is such an underrated trick. because I would be doing the same thing. I always end up goofing up with my subfolders, and I make them manually, and I should always drag and drop. Now that you've created those subfolders, can you reorder them? Can you drag that images folder into the studio project folder?
No, so that's one thing that you can't currently do. And that's why it's always best to create your folders before you're adding your files, because then you have to delete your files and then re-add them to the location. And that is currently the only downside I've seen in here, is the dragability or movability of a file or folder. It's a one and done, but they can be changed, right? You can save it out, delete it, move it. But it's a one and done in terms of where things are dragged or created. Alrighty, so talked about subfolders. Now, how can we add files? Again, within here, you can go and select what you want to add, or in this open area, just you have to remember your hierarchy of where you're at. Images, I can right click and I can add new folder, new files, or upload an entire folder structure itself. So again, I can go through and add some files if I wanted to. So we're gonna add some images here. I guess that goes way somewhere else.
There's that option to upload folder. So that would give you the whole folder with the images in it, or it would just give you the images inside of that folder?
Whatever the folder contains.
But it wouldn't give you an actual another subfolder.
It's the structure and the folder itself.
Okay.
Yeah. So if there's subfolders underneath it, it would go along with it. So one example would be, let's see. I have some sheet sets that has folders in it, right? So I could just say this entire folder, and it's going to start creating those subsets too. And then once it does this, it'll start adding any PDFs that you had in there. Yeah, it's still building it out. Maybe I shouldn't have done that one. It's the whole folder. Make sure you click inside the folder. But as you see, you start having your build out for it. And it's giving you up here in your, what I like to call dynamic options bar. It's your options bar, telling you what, we're just going to cancel that.
that was maybe a little aggressive for a demo.
Yeah. So you have that ability to go through and check what's happening. How many have been uploaded? You can clear it if you wanted to as well. But going back, so these things have been updated. Let's talk about what you can do once you're in here. Again, you can right click, do the same thing. You can also select from over here as well. Let's go through and have you join, Jason. Okay. Because I want to, did you get in?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So studio projects.
So I'm going to make sure my restrict attendees is added here, but I'm going to add Jason. Let me go over here.
So we're going back to how are we going to share files with one another? This is one of the options, right? So he's created the structure, he's uploaded files, and now he's inviting me to go view those files, right? And all I have to do is do the email, right? So I'll get an email here in a second that's going to pop up letting me know that Michael has invited me to join his session, or I can see the ID. And since I can see the ID and my email, my Bluebeam ID is associated with this particular session, because there is a restriction there, I can still type in the ID, right? So if I type that in, hang on, 63. You don't need the dashes, by the way. So I'm joining. I did get the email. So the email just popped up, and I could have clicked a link there. But instead, I am joining, and now we see that total users turns to 2.
Yep.
So on my screen, I see the same exact thing that Michael sees, right? I have all of the same folders. I see all of the same things. And I can go in here and view what I would like to view.
Yep. And so let's kind of talk about that at this moment. How does Review Studio Projects work for file locking, right? Let me go in here and add I
So
think, well, there's an image here. We can go off the image. Let me add a PDF though, right here as well.
So as you're loading a PDF, this is a big thing when it comes to file sharing. And I know I'm guilty of this, and I know maybe some of you have seen this as well. If I simply just email a file, right? And I email it off and said, here you go. I have no idea what's going on with it. Are they going to open it up? Are they going to rotate it? Are they going to scale it? Are they going to remove something? Like, I've lost all the data integrity once it leaves my outbox, technically, right? What we're going to do instead here in Studio Projects is have it be that central repository where we can go view it, and we do have that security. So it's the same essentially as emailing it, right? The person on the receiving end has access to it, to view it, to do whatever. But I know that if they decide to move stuff, if they decide to make changes, I can either prevent that from happening, or I can see what they did. So it's a little bit more secure this way.
So with that, that is one pro you would say would be a revision history.
Mm-hmm. And just, security too.
Okay. So from in here, before we talk about what you can and cannot do. So before I added Jason, I probably should have done some settings. So I skipped one step. Currently right now, when a project is created, default is restrict users. That means only users that email addresses fall into here will be able to join my project. This is unchecked. Anybody with the project ID right here was able to join, right? So you can create and add new email addresses or your groups, which I love having again. You can add them by the group. Send them an email reminder if you needed to. Then you have permissions. So permissions is for the overall project. It's not for the folder structure itself, because that's these folder permissions. So what can all attendees do, or any groups that you create, or by specific users that have been brought in, right? So if you have any users that have been brought in by their email addresses, you can select those specific attendees to only have access to certain things in the project, such as, can they invite other members? Can they manage user access, which would be over here? Can they manage permissions, which is this? Can they send PDFs to sessions? Meaning, can they right click on a PDF, not a JPEG, a .pdf extension, and add it to a studio session so that people can collaborate upon it? Revoke checkout, share links, full control. Probably never want to give anybody full control besides yourself creating the project. Okay, then you have folder permissions. So permissions is of the overall project. Folder permissions is of the individual folders and what they can and cannot do in these individual folders. So your first and foremost is your project root, which we talked about, is this MCR 2020-0111. What can they do in here below that? Only thing that Jason can do currently is read every single folder that's been added. Then if I click the drop down here, I'm going to start seeing the same type of structure that I see over here. So if I click the drop down for airport, I'm going to see images with a subfolder of demo docs and a subfolder underneath those as well, like this. Okay. Now,
Question.
yes.
So if I go to my project settings, I see all the same things that you see currently.
Yes.
But Matt has a question. His window, if he had a window, because he's not in this project, if he had a window and only the general tab was showing up, would that indicate that you were invited to somebody else's studio project? And since I was invited and I see all the tabs, I would say no, that's not the case. But I'm guessing security has something to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe.
So is he just asking if that's all he's going to see? Because you'll see everything in here. You just can't do things into it.
Oh, you're in a, he's in the ATG dashboard.
We'll have to check that out.
The studio project. That's a, we got to revisit dashboards too.
Yeah.
Add to the list.
We'll have to see if you're only seeing general, what settings we set up in there to see what's happening. But back to this. Okay. So currently you can read all of your projects, right? So currently set up anyone in this project, all attendees can only read anything that's in here, meaning they can open it up. They can't do anything with it. Review works as a check-in, check-out basis. So in that example, they wouldn't be able to modify it, right? So from in here, what I can do though is select the drop down next to things. So if I wanted to inherit from parent, the parent of this studio project folder is the project root. Versus down here under the airport project, right? If I close this down, just like you see and usually see in Windows subfolders, image, the parent from image is going to be the airport, right? So it's inheriting this one, which is inheriting this one. If I were to change the image and what they can do in images, such as read and write, that means anything below that, inherit from parent, means that Jason can read and write in anything below my airport project because they're all inheriting from their parent, which is the airport project, which he can read and write in there. Now you can also set up,
when you're sharing files. When you're sharing files, think about what you want people to do. Do you want them just to view it? Do you want them to be able to download it and print it? These are all things that you can control from here. So it's worth spending the time.
Yeah. So for this instance, I have my demo group in here. If I don't want them to see a subfolder, you can also change that as well. So, hey, demo group's not supposed to have any access to the airport project, only the studio project files here. I can click the drop down and say hidden. So when he joins the demo group, they will not see the airport project. But all attendees, the other attendees, will be able to go through and read and write.
That's awesome. That's something I never play with because I never think about that. But the mind is naturally curious, right? What's in this folder? What's in that folder? If you don't see it, then it makes it easier for someone else to navigate. This is especially important for folks who may be on an iPad or they don't want to be digging through here. Like, just show me what I need to show me. Show me what you need to show me, and then let me get out of the way.
Yeah, so there's inherent from parent, hidden, read, write, and delete. Great. So we went over permissions. We'll have to check what I have set up. We have a dashboard. Let me quickly go over to here and see what's wrong with good old Matt, since he's trying to look at it. Settings that I've set up for all attendees. So all attendees are read and write. You can only send invitations and share links is what you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm interested to see why you can't have this. It's probably this setting by default.
The general tab.
And it could also, I didn't think about it. The reason why you probably are able to see more things, Jason, is because you're added as an admin to our Prime account. So it's probably why you're able still to see tabs if he's only able to see general.
That could very well be.
Yeah. Which we'll talk about in a second, what Prime capabilities you have with Studio Prime as well.
Okay, so go back to the MCR project that you had there. So I want to send a file to somebody, but they don't have Bluebeam Revu. How do I do that from here? Is there a way that I can share these files with somebody who's not a part of this?
Yes. So this is what I do all the time. But before we start there, let's start with one last thing. I like to sync. So if you've been invited to a project, everyone's usually afraid of this green button here. I usually sync the hierarchy. That means that when things are updated, you're going to get the latest sync, and it also caches things locally. So if you're going out to the field and you need access to your PDFs, because it's going to pull, it doesn't automatically cache the data locally to your desktop. If you're going out to the field and you need access to everything in the project or just the specific folders, you can right click on the entire project header, sync, or next to the other folders, there's a green icon as well. And that caches locally what you have from that folder. Again, you can work offline if you needed to modify it. You just can't check out unless you're connected to the internet in order to modify it, because it's a check-in, check-out basis for file locking, just like a book at the library. Now, back to what Jason was saying, if I needed to share somebody this PDF that I have over here, You can always right click on whatever file you need, not the folder itself, but the file itself. And you can share with a link if, caveat being, your settings have been set up for you to be able and allowed to do that. So when I click this button here, it's going to say what the project name is, what the file is, share file for lifetime or 24 hours only, meaning the link will break. This is a static, not a dynamic link, meaning if you're updating this, this link does not update as well with the new data. It is static. Are you going to require a password, and are you going to flatten for this specific instance, because it is a PDF, the markups that are in it? You can hit OK. This is going to be your new link, so I can copy and share this. Then I can go to an email address or wherever you want to go through and do this. And what it's going to create is a link that you can share. Now, always people are like, well, they don't have review. What is it going to look like? So if they type this in, this is what it's going to look like. Just like a standard download, it will download just like a typical download, and they will be able to show in folder, save as, whatever they need to.
Works so good. This is what I've been using lately, and I think it's, I mean, for one, it's kind of brilliant, right? Because if you didn't know what Bluebeam was, or you didn't know what Studio was, you're getting sort of an advertisement with your email caveat. But overall, it's fast, it's effective. You have to be thorough about it. Now, good question coming here from Matt. Will that work for a non-PDF file? Because we know that Studio projects can upload a whole bunch of file types except for exe, and I think that's about it. Can you send like a DWG file or a Excel spreadsheet?
So I'm going to show you all something. I just need to check which version this is created in. Where'd that go? Okay.
Is that a y'all? Did you just throw a y'all? Did that a couple days in Idaho change you?
Couple days. So I'm going to add a .rvt file to this. Now, this is not a replacement for BIM 360. BIM 360 is work shared enabled. This is not work shared enabled. So it's a single user file in a .rvt file extension, but it can be used in a DWG or anything like that. Now, the other downside, so there's two cons. Can't move files from one folder to the next. The other con is if you open a DWG or .rvt, it's going to default to your most latestly used edition of Revit or AutoCAD. Okay, that is a downside. So yes, you do need to be aware of what version of Revit this is in. Otherwise, it's going to default to like 21. It's going to upgrade your file. It's going to maybe default to 18. It's not going to open the file, right? So you need to have that edition of Revit open, which I have 2022 open. I need to cancel this and I need to save these out. It's different. But what you would do is you're going to open up the version of Revit that you want it to open in, which is 20, right? Then from there, when you open that up, that's how it will work. It'll open in that version. But it's a check in, check out basis. So when you look at documents here, you can right click and check it out like a book. That doesn't mean for PDFs, at least, only PDFs. Jason, if I were to check out the PDF here to work on it, meaning markup, rearrange it, overlay, Jason can still open it. So it's not like Windows where it's barred you from opening it if someone else has it checked out and working on it. You can still open it and look at and review the document. The other thing, though, is if I have it checked out like a book, I'll check it out. Jason, we'll have you check out the photo so I can show them what it looks like if you checked out the photo here under Airport Progress Photo 1. What I can do here now is I can open this up so it's checked out, meaning I went to the library, checked out the book. When you open it, you'll have this checkout symbol. But if you click on it, you can update the server copy. So if Jason wanted to see me update what I was doing revision-wise to this PDF when he had it open, I could update the server copy. It's going to check it back in real quick, post the updates, and then Jason will be able to see the updates, but then check it back out for me. Or I could check it back in like a book. Please use good comments.
Wait a second here.
And I hit check in.
All right.
He will then be able to see a revision history of what happened and took place. What?
Okay, so I opened up the project. I checked out the project progress folder, progress photo, right?
Yes.
So you won't be able to do that. But in that reference plan that you just had, so let me find it. You said that when you upload your server copy, if I have that file open, what happens? Will it give me a notice that this has been out of date?
No, so you'll see the icon that someone's checked it out. You're not syncing, so yeah, you're not going to be able to see the updates. Okay. Yeah, but internally, Review knows that that is what it is. So I set this to sync currently all, so it synced all my files in here, so it quickly updated here. Otherwise, if you don't have it set to sync, you'd have to close out, reopen it. So it repings the cache data, right? And then you would see that that person has it checked out. But as the admin, and anybody could see this, you could see that they're checked out by a specific user. So see, checked out by Jason Artley. But this is one great feature because sometimes when people have it open and they leave for the day, you usually don't know who has it open and you have to go searching everyone's desktop. But what I could do here is I could right click and I can revoke checkout. Now yeah. But be aware, if Jason's updating it, didn't save his changes, it's going to revoke it, meaning before he checked it out, that's the most recent it'll go back to. It won't save his markups. It'll revoke his checkout. It'll pull it back in so I can then check it out. So it's really like a last resort, more like Jason's out for a week and we can't wait and we're going to lose his markups and we're just going to say, okay, that's fine. We'll start from ground zero, wherever you were at, right? So you can revoke the checkout. But going back to mine, there's this revision history. And this works, by the way, for .rvt files too. You can revert back to an older edition of your Revit file from here as well. But same thing here. I can go to revision history. I can open, well, let me go here and open checkout and markup, and I'll show you the differences. Now open this. I'm going to give it a markup here. Something like this, check it back in, Rev 02. And then I want to see the revision history. So I can go to revision history down here and I can see all of the check-in points. That's why I said comments are good, because then you can see what actually happened or read what actually happened. Or you can open up an older version like this. So I'm opening up this older version. You'll see this time lock. And then I can also open up this version, which is locked because I don't have it checked out, but I'm viewing them, right? And I could do my side-by-side if I wanted to with synchronized document, scroll in and out and see what the changes were. This is an older revision. And I can even revert back to this on top of this one, but still have my history of those as well. So if I wanted to revert back to this one, it would go on top of this one, and I'd still have this one to go back to.
Pretty clever. All right. For the sake of time, you showed how to share that file. How do I know, let's say I did want to email something. And I know we talked about the evils of email, but is there a better way that I can email a file from Review?
Yes. PDF, right?
PDF only.
Mm-hmm. So you can open one up and you can, I prefer to right click from here in email, but I don't know. Do you have to have it checked out for this one?
I don't know if it'll work in a session, actually. Never tried.
Project. Oh, it did. So if you just go file, you have the project open, you can email directly from here, Control E. It'll populate it up. You can send it to whoever you want to. Let's not give everybody email addresses. Sorry, stop clicking again. But you can,
guilty of this.
Yeah, you can go click it and then email it to whoever, but it gives you your subject and already attaches the file. Now you can do it from a template if you had specific people you wanted to email to. So you can create a template on the name of whatever the template you want it to be. And then to who, CC, BC, so blind copy. I had no idea that that's what that was. I learned that recently in the year, last year, I think it was. Subject matter and then message.
This is something that I've been utilizing more and more because I keep having to send the same thing to the same person to do the same thing. So now I just made a template. It saves me a ton of typing. All I got to do is fire that off and it's pre-populated with a whole bunch of stuff already in there. So it's a really good function. Another way to share files with Revu.
Yes. Let me save this out real quick to my desktop here. I want to show how to work on a different file type than a PDF.
Okay. So we'll show this, and then we're going to jump into Prime. And then I want to make sure that we save at least 5 minutes at the end, because Dwayne's got a good question that
I'll be quick.
Goes down the rabbit hole that we love to do. So
you need to have your Revit version open that you're going to be working in. Then you can right click, check out. Remember, it doesn't open the .rvt file immediately like that. Now, it's going to cache it locally. It'll create a cache local document, which is great, but it still maintains a connection to projects if you have projects open. So don't close out a review or the project when you have this checked out and you're working on the .rvt file. Learn that the hard way. It'll save it locally. Then you'll have to delete the copy on the project and then replace it with the new one. But you can hit open here. Remember, have the correct version open, because it's going to open that version that you're in with that file that it's going to open, okay? And it's opening some things in here. So now that it's open, right? If I wanted to make changes or work on the .rvt file, again, I open this one here. It is now opened here.
We only see the review this on the screen here that you're sharing.
I think I hit pause. Okay. So I right clicked here and I said open. Let me close it out because I don't want people to think that I just did something in the background and didn't show them correctly. So I right clicked, I said check out, and then I hit open. It's going to open in the version of Revit you have open. So it's going to open in this version. Some things happened because I didn't have my links correct, but from in here now, it's open. Now I can go and work on my standard Revit project. When I hit save, as long as this was open, it will save to here, okay? So you don't have to go in and say check in right away. When you hit save, it's saving it to the linked location of the project, okay? Now, if you hit save and you close out a review, it will prompt you to save it locally somewhere because it caches locally as well, okay? So if I go here and update and put MJE, and I hit save, then I can close out. It automatically already saved it here. I don't have to check it in unless I want someone else to work on it. I hit open again. We're going to see that new update. There it is. Okay. That's a file that lives in the cloud. Then I can say check in because someone else wants to work on it or we're done. Now it's updated in the cloud. Then you were asking about revision history. You still have it in here from right here.
That is just awesome. So the year thing doesn't affect us Civil 3D users as much. As long as they're 2018 to 2022, it really won't cause an issue there. But I like how you've put the year abbreviated there on your RVT file. So note to anybody wanting to use this for Revit, append your file with what year this is in, because that versioning history is much more important on the Revit side of things.
Yep. Okay. So what was next?
Let's go into Prime and see. So I'm curious. We've got all these users on Bluebeam Studio and they're loading up all these files. And how do I know that I don't have some random person with a Yahoo email address joining my studio? No offense to Yahoo users, because I'm still one of them sometimes. But how do I make sure that my company isn't putting all of my company secrets on Bluebeam Studio?
So by default, everyone has an access to sessions controllability, but not projects, meaning they can't see all of their projects. By default, if you log into prime.com, it's going to give you a location. I guess I closed it out. If you go Prime, I did. It's right here.
Prime.bluebeam.com.
Yeah, prime.bluebeam.com. You're going to get a lower version of Studio Prime, which just gives you controllability of your sessions to reactivate them. Now, in projects or in Prime here, if I want to see what my overall company is doing, you have to invite them to join by their email addresses. It doesn't automatically give them invites to their location here. Okay.
We can add Matt.
Okay. Let me invite Matt now to here. There's a welcome message. We're going to do I think it's Lynn at ATG USA. Don't email him, please.
But do send him a nice message. No,
yeah. So I'm going to send this invitation to him as a member or an admin. We'll make him an admin, and I can import some files if I wanted to as well. So import a CSV file for my contact list, and then a welcome message.
Now, this is a huge part, right? So we deal with firms who have, 100+ licenses, and like, man, I don't want to have to enter in everybody's single email address. Put it in a spreadsheet, upload that CSV file. You can have it set. Everybody can be members because you're going to want to add them at some point, but it's really quick if you do that CSV import.
Yep. Matt just received his Bluebeam certified support representative. So welcome, new BCSR. He's now an admin here. I'm going to send him an invitation. So now he has been accessed, and we will see him down here as well. I don't know. I think it shows him even before he's accepted. No, it doesn't. Okay. So we'll see once they've been accepted.
Pending invites at the top.
Yep. Pending invites. Here it is. Thank you. And here's Matt Lynn. So members, then you have collaborators. So if you're inviting other people, did you just cover this? Did I zone out of what you were talking about? Okay. So collaborators are people that have been invited to your sessions or your projects, right? So any outside consultants that have been invited through here, and I'm not going to click on that because I don't want to give away email addresses and names, but you'll be able to see them and remove them if you wanted to as well. Okay. Then you have pending invites. It looks like Matt already accepted it. He's already in it. Then you have blocked contributors. So if you've blocked somebody from joining a session because they did something in here or something like that, you'll see them there. Now this is users. So this dropdown says users management. You have to add them to get insights on their projects and their sessions. Otherwise, you can't see them unless you've added them here. So their domain doesn't automatically put them into the bucket. As you could tell here, we had ATG USA for Matt, but it didn't automatically add him into the bucket of Prime. We had to go in and invite him to the Prime portal in order for him to get added. So anytime Matt now creates a project or a session, we will see the data for it as well.
And now he sees all the tabs in Studio Projects.
So that's what it was.
Your guess there was correct. Thanks for verifying, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. So remember when Matt was saying he could only see the general tab because he had limited capabilities, but Jason was able to. It's because he's an admin in our Prime portal, so that gave him admin rights in our projects as well, even though he wasn't given admin rights in the project originally. Okay, so going back to projects here, I can go and look at my projects. Remember we created one and it failed. That's weird. Never seen that before. Prime home. Is my internet bad?
I'm pulling up mine just in case.
Yes, my browser has been so messed up lately. I don't know why. Remember, I couldn't get in YouTube the other day.
Yeah.
So going back to projects, now I can see all of my projects here and other people's projects as well. So you can see who the host is. Madeline has his new host one. You can go through and see all of these. I'm going to go to, where's this MCR? Here it is. So I can go and see that there's 3 files added. I have my file share that I usually share with clients that I'm working with. There's over 300 documents in this one. So again, you just get a visual look at what's happening in your projects and how many attendees are in that project. So I can go to here and just select that MCR that we just had. I can see who's access status denied. I don't know why he's denied, but you get to see what it says here for them specific and what they are doing in that project as well. You can even transfer ownership. So if someone leaves the company and they were originally the owner, you can actually transfer the ownership of that project so the project doesn't have to get deleted or recreated. You can view and review, so it'll populate open review. You can generate insights. This is a great one as well. Let me go to my file share so I can show you some insights, because this one's been a long-standing one that I've had. So I can go into here and I can generate some insights. And this is the project ID. I could look at different projects if I wanted to. I can say activity, shared links. So any links that were shared. Let me get some insights. Here's all of my links of things that were shared and when they were shared. And if they are still active, right, enabled, this one ended. I can go and see my statistics of what's happening in this file share as well. So there's 3 users, number of documents. I can go and see activity from a specific date and time, maybe last month. Let's search and see what I did last month, if I did anything. And it's going to take a little bit. It's from the December 1st to December 31st. But this is going to populate anything that happened. I added a DWG to this project last month. You still have access to sessions as well. So if you wanted to gain insights on sessions, you could too. You have integration. So if you wanted to integrate into different types of solutions, most frequently known as Procore. If you're going to do this BIM 360 integration, it's actually through the desktop. Autodesk retired the connection, so you won't be able to get that. Folder optimization. So if you wanted to automate folder creation, this is also a great location. So if you're not using Prime yet, you can do it by the drag and drop of your windows, or you can automate folder creation directly from here. That's going to automatically create your inputs of different file types as well. So this will help you create a folder location and folders within those automatically from here.
There's so many good things buried inside of Prime, and Prime is a totally different subscription. It's not included like Studio is. So if you don't have it, it's one of those things where it's not exactly cheap, but it's very worthwhile for larger firms.
Yeah, if you're trying to manage projects that you're not invited to and just overarchy of what's happening in the firms and getting digest from those, this is going to be what you're going to want to have. The insights is going to give you that cost value back immediately versus having to be invited, see what's happening from a lower standpoint of investigation. You could do it directly from here.
All right, so we've covered sharing files with Studio projects. We covered sharing files via the share link. We covered sharing files via email. Those were the 3 topics that I wanted to test. I mean, we're able to invite Mike, or able to invite Matt over to Prime as well. So is there any other questions about sharing files? Because I'm really excited to go down the rabbit hole, because you know that's what we love to do here. So switching gears now, going into a file, and Dwayne, I love that you prefaced your question with this. This might not be an appropriate question for this setting. It's always an appropriate question for this setting, because we're here to answer community questions. So the question is, the challenge we've got here, I'm trying to make a light fixture symbol tool that I can count, rotate to any angle, and be able to select for half the fixture to be color filled and not color filled. Right? So let's start with just the symbol first, right? We need to make a light fixture symbol tool. Now there are some files that are default in here, or you can totally cheat like Michael did and import a tool set. This looks mighty familiar.
I just don't have one, so I cheated.
There you go.
So mounted strobe, let's see. If only there was a way to see what these are. And yours could be something better that's more icon-y. We'll just use this horn for an example, right? Now, if you've created, I think they grouped these. Hopefully they did. No, this is a snapshot. I think these ones are grouped. Yeah. So grouping, there is downsides to not grouping and creating a snapshot of something. If I go and change my color formatting, it's a lot easier when they're not grouped together versus see, because it's only going to change your most recently grouped icon versus this one, which is a snapshot, or did I delete it?
That switch receptacle has that half fill.
Yeah. So this one here, you can change colors because it's all of the source color location to something else like that. So snapshot's a little bit better because it's not your most recently last grouped icon when you group them together to change the color of that. And then when you go in here, you can do that. I probably wouldn't change this one because it changes your defaults. You'd probably select it and then change it to whatever you were to say. That was one of the questions. Yes, once these have been placed, you can rotate as well. Now, some users scale it after they placed it. Be aware there is the capability of having these all scale to the scale of the document as well. If you go to our resource pages on our website, we talk about how to do both, how to set scale to the tool sets and then how to set the scale of the markups that have been made. Did that answer that, Jason?
I believe so. You have the symbol. We should show the count feature then. All right, so you rotated it. Go throw in a few more just for fun.
This isn't a count though, but yeah.
But if you wanted to know how many of those that you had in here, you could sort by subject, and that tells you right there that there are 4. Or you can use the count measurement tool, or you can use the search and just search for that symbol.
Yeah, so you can create a count here. You can't create a sequence because there's no number value in it. Sequence is a visual incrementation of things. So this is a sequence, but it itemizes every instance placed, right? Versus a count is going to show a visual representation, but give one in the grouping of what it is. So you could go over here to count. Now it tells me there's 11 of these ones here.
So that same thing would function if you were to have inserted your light symbol.
Yep.
So there's some tricks there, Dwayne. And if you were interested in downloading that tool set that had those lights in it already, I can pull up that link and put it in the chat. So as I'm looking for that link, let's get you started on some downloads. We got just a couple minutes left. Any questions over there on YouTube land or any questions here with our group?
2 minutes left.
There's my link. I'll post this in the Zoom chat for everyone. So there you go, Dwayne. Go ahead and pull that out of the Zoom chat. Bookmark that site because it is hard to find via the Googles. And yep. And there's a whole bunch of things that you can get started with.
Yeah, resources, workflows, filter by Bluebeam. And here's everything. Like I said, desktop connector, setting scales, and then scalable tool sets. And then also our YouTube channel as well. So feel free to check out ATG USA's YouTube channel. And you can go down and find our morning coffee reviews or any Bluebeam tips and tricks channel. I think these are sub channels. I don't know how YouTube works yet, but these are your sub channels of different items. And then also your Bluebeam morning coffee review when my wall was just black and then shelves, and you could see all the way down on what we have as well.
So hello to any future viewers checking us out on YouTube, and hello to everybody who's watching us live right now. So as we wrap this up for the day, I want to say thank you for joining us here on our January 11th morning coffee review. Thank you, DJ CJ. Thank you, Matt Lynn. Thank you, ATG. Thank you, everybody who tuned in today.
Yes.
We'll see you in the future.
And as always, there is a review at the end. So please leave us a review. If you have any questions or want to see any future episodes of specific topics, leave them there. We always tune into those. So please do that. And thank you all for attending. And we will see you next week.